Saxon. Innocence is no excuse. If there was one Saxon album I could take with me to a desert island, it wouldn't be Wheels of Steel. It wouldn't be Denim and Leather. It wouldn't even be Strong Arm of the Law. It would be this one. The year is 1985. Saxon have released 6 consecutive top 20 albums in the UK, but their commercial momentum is slowing slightly. Their new wave of British heavy metal style has fallen out of favor among the record-buying public. So, after experimenting slightly with a more commercial direction on the Crusader album in 1984, Saxon decides to go all the way in a bid for more mainstream popularity. Also on the minds of the band, making it in America. Saxon had barely cracked the Billboard 200 with their previous 2 albums, and they were hoping to gather some more traction there and get a big push from their US label Capitol. As a matter of fact, this album that I have right here is a Capitol version of the record from the United States. You can see evidence of the band's attempt to pivot towards a more mainstream audience on the inner sleeve photo where everyone's all smiles. And you can see some very fresh-looking Nike sneakers instead of the boots you would normally see on a Saxon album. Saxon would normally be found posing on their motorcycles and looking very stern, but here they want you to know that they're just a bunch of fun-loving guys who like to party. The image change carries over to the album cover as well. This is probably my least favorite Saxon album cover ever. It's gratuitously playing up a sex angle that they absolutely didn't need to do. You can see several examples on the inner sleeve of some really interesting black and white photography that I think would have made for a much better cover. In fact, they used one of these photos for the Back on the Street single. However, this album is a perfect example of why you should never judge a book by its cover. From the very first moment, this is my favorite Saxon record ever. The opener, Rockin' Again. Such a perfect live opener, I have no idea why they never ever opened with it. What an atmosphere they build on the opening of this song. The middle 8 is very inspired, so inspired that they do this bridge twice, and the solo, just absolutely top-notch stuff. I'm not enough of a Saxon nerd to know whether it's Graham Oliver or Paul Quinn doing this one, but my goodness, they just go no breaks, full into it. I love this song so much, and it's just the beginning. One little critique I do have to offer for Rockin' Again is that it seems like they really didn't know how to end the song. The arrangement could use a little bit of work, and that's honestly one of the only arrangement quibbles I'm going to have with this record. Most of the rest of it is very tight and very well thought out. Song 2, Call of the Wild, great rocker, and this brings me to another point that I want to make. This album is elevated by its production. The album sounds tremendous from start to finish. It's a treat to listen to. Some people think that this sounds too mainstream. I completely disagree. They started experimenting with slightly more lively production on Crusader, and it's taken to its logical conclusion here. This album doesn't sound dated whatsoever. It sounds cutting edge. The bass by Steve Dawson runs through every song. It's so deep. It's exceptionally well recorded. The drums sound massive, but they sound real. They don't sound fake, to the point where I don't even know if they used a drum machine on any of these songs. Saxon never had a long-term relationship with one producer the way some bands did, and Simon Hanhart was the man behind the controls for this one. He also produced Wasted Save Your Prayers and Babylon AD's debut album. Both of those albums are standouts that I think you might see on this channel sometime down the road. The man clearly knew what he was doing, but he's not a guy you're going to hear about a lot when we talk about great 80s producers. I think this album is his best work. It sounds tremendous. Streets is probably where a lot of people get the idea that this album was some kind of pop sellout. It's very, very happy, very up, very mainstream sounding, but I love it. I think it's a really great song. It was a great choice for the lead single. Unfortunately, it didn't even crack the top 70 in the UK, which was not something the band wanted. If you're trying to appeal to the mainstream, it doesn't look very good if you can't even beat some of your previous successes that were definitely more true to their metal roots. Despite the fact that it flopped commercially, I think Back on the Streets is a wonderful song that deserves to be played live a hell of a lot more often than it is by the band. It puts me in a good mood every time. There is nary a weak track on side 1 of this album, and The Devil Rides Out, song number 4, continues the momentum. This is a song that could have been fairly ordinary in a different setting, but Biff Byford delivers a stunningly intense vocal, and the production just carries this thing. Like I said, it's a treat to listen to. Rock and Roll Gypsy closes out side 1. Another single that did not reach its potential on the charts, but that does not mean it's a bad song. In fact, it's a great song. This should be a staple in Saxon's live set, just like Back on the Streets. These are really, really strong songs that unfortunately have largely been swept under the rug in the last 35 years. They shot a video for this one too. It's pretty funny if you want to check it out. Saxon were never the most natural in front of the camera as video stars, but it's a good video. Unfortunately, it didn't get any traction on MTV, which they were probably hoping for. This was supposed to be Saxon's American breakthrough, and it is their highest charting album ever in the United States. Unfortunately, that position is 133. Not quite what Capitol were looking for, and after one more album with Rock the Nations, that would be it for Saxon's push in America. It's a very special album that can have 5 straight songs that are all certified bangers, but this album has 6, and the 6th one is the best of the bunch. Leading off side 2 is the best Saxon song they ever recorded, my personal favorite, Broken Heroes. It sounds redundant, but oh my goodness, this song is amazing to listen to, especially if you have good headphones or a good speaker system that can really bring out the tremendously low bass notes, which just create this sense of foreboding and doom when this song opens. This is a song about war, and Saxon have written plenty of songs about war. But this is a song that sounds like an ode to every soldier who died and every war that's ever been fought. There are allusions to different wars throughout different periods of history, all woven together. I don't even know, without going into just ridiculous hyperbole, how highly I can praise this song. It's been one of my favorites in any genre from any band since the moment I first heard it. I've heard it hundreds of times, and yet when I was listening to it this time for this review, every hair on my body stood up. And it's actually doing that again when I'm talking about it right now. It's just that good. The refrain, "Where are they now?" repeated over and over again, is so simple but so haunting because it forces you to answer that question. Honestly, the only other album I can think of that has a similarly incredible opening track to the second side with this much emotional depth after a side 1 that good is my favorite album ever, which is Def Leppard's Hysteria. But Broken Heroes might be a better song than Gods of War. It might be. Chew on that. That's how good Broken Heroes is. Unfortunately, that high point is pretty much the last great song on the album. The last 4 are much more of a mixed bag. To be honest, Gonna Shout, Raise Some Hell, and Everybody Up are 3 attempts at writing the same song. These are all intended to be played live and get the crowd going, and I think there's some mixed results here, and you didn't need to have all 3 of them on this album, especially not in a row. Of the 3, I think the best is Everybody Up. It's definitely a song that gets me up. It's something that I would love to hear second at a concert after they open with Rockin' Again. If I'm putting together my dream Saxon set list, that's probably where I slot this song in. It has a keyboard sample in it, which is kind of interesting and livens things up a little bit. But again, keyboards are not used excessively on this album. The final song on the album, Give It Everything You've Got, sounds like old Saxon. This would not sound out of place on Crusader, or Power and the Glory, or really even their earlier stuff. It just sounds like a garden variety Saxon album track. There's nothing really different about it. There's nothing special about it either. But I think that speaks to just how brave a departure this album was for them. It took a very familiar formula by that point that was several albums old. To be fair, they tweaked it slightly on Crusader, and they really, in my opinion, hit a home run, or their English, they hit a 6 with this. This album, they knocked it out of the park. No, it's not perfect, there's some filler on side 2, but this album should have been a monster if you're asking me. Unfortunately, this kind of goes back to what we were talking about with Twisted Sister last week. Their fans didn't embrace it, because it was different, and they felt like they were being betrayed. I wish people were just a little bit more open-minded. However, with Saxon, I can understand it to a certain degree. This was such an underground band that was built throughout that whole movement in 1978 and 1979, and people, especially in the UK, really felt like Saxon was theirs. And now it felt like they were playing to the Americans and playing to the pop audience that thought that the heavy metal fans were a bunch of smelly freaks. If you like this album and this era, there's a very, very fun live concert film that was shot, I think, in Spain, and shows them playing a couple of the songs from this record. Very rowdy crowd, Biff Byford wearing a truly regrettable and ridiculous outfit, band clearly at the peak of their fashion crisis here, not knowing how to make it as an ugly metal band in the very image-conscious MTV 80s, but it's a fun show. And I shouldn't say they're an ugly band. They're not pretty boys. Biff could have been when he was younger, and he has great hair here, but they're just not a glam band, and it's unfortunate to see them try to be one. It's just kind of silly. Innocence Is No Excuse was not Saxon's final try to break into the mainstream. That last desperate attempt would be 1988's Destiny, which I may cover sometime down the road. But this was the end of Saxon's reign in the top 20 in the UK. The album went to number 36, and they would not reach the top 30 ever again. Or so it seemed. Saxon never gave up. They never stopped doing their thing, releasing records, touring, and working their asses off. And in 2018, 33 years after Innocence Is No Excuse, they cracked the top 30 in the UK once again with Thunderbolt at number 29. Truly a testament to their hard work. Now, there have been 22 Saxon studio albums, and not a one of them has gone gold in the United States. So theoretically, I could do any of them. But why Innocence Is No Excuse? Well, to me, it's more that the album has been overlooked by the band themselves and by their fans. There's the holy trinity of Strong Arm of the Law, Wheels of Steel, and Denim and Leather, and that makes up the bulk of Saxon's legacy. But when I saw this band in 2017, they played 3 songs from Power and the Glory, and I've seen them play Crusader more than once. Have I seen them play anything from Innocence Is No Excuse? Basically, the canon for Saxon is 1979 to 1984, and then whatever they're promoting that's most recent. Yeah, they might throw in Solid Ball of Rock or something from the middle there, but Innocence Is No Excuse falls outside of the accepted Saxon canon, and it was never really embraced by their fans who saw it as a pop sellout. I think that's a crying shame. To me, this is their best songwriting. To me, it's the most enjoyable record of theirs to listen to sonically, And again, if I was trapped on a desert island, this is the album I'm rolling with. Users of the website Heavy Harmonies, known softies for this kind of a thing, have given the album an 88 out of 100. For me, this album gets an 85 out of 100. This channel is just getting started, so that doesn't mean much yet, but I can tell you that's a very, very high score. This album is a forgotten classic and exactly the kind of album that I want to review on this channel. But please, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me Innocence is garbage. And if it's not your favorite Saxon album, which I'm guessing it isn't, what is your favorite? Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and all that other nonsense if you want to see more of this. I'll see you next time.